Good morning, everyone, or evening or afternoon. It is about 1:30 in the afternoon today as I record this, Sunday the 7th. It was it was a moment last night sitting on the couch where it was like, here we go again. Like, I looked outside from my windows during the day and the snow just kept coming and coming and coming, and it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, nobody wants to cancel 2 weeks in a row. But for the sake of safety, because let's be honest, for most of us, if you are a younger person with a family and kids, you generally don't want to go out in the snow unless the kids want to go out and play, but you don't want to go out somewhere. Church isn't our highest priority as it used to be, unfortunately. And for those of you of an older generation, then most of you still have like that internal guilt, I would say, that's like, if church is open, we're going to be there. And some of y'all shouldn't risk being out. And so when the weather is not good and the roads are a little iffy and it's single-digit temperatures, then the leaders decided to cancel. And so for those of y'all that stayed home warm and cozy, had your coffee and your breakfast and all that, we are now getting into week 2. So I woke up this morning, did my normal routine with a little coffee and some Bible time, and then went outside and blew the snow and cleared off my driveway. And now I am in front of in the front of my house in my office with, I got a few decorations. You probably can't see them here. Let me move that. You can see you could see, after I push that out of the way and mess everything up, my Grinch book back there, and I got my little Santa hat that I usually wear. It is Christmas time, and I am one of those people that it is easy to let the struggles of life and the things that have happened to you in the past be the things that dictate whether you enjoy Christmas or not. And so I am going to actively enjoy Christmas. And with that comes, of course, the one thing I didn't show you. Yes, that we're going to get to a sermon, but I got a t-shirt. It's like the Christmas Story, but the Squatchmas story. I got it out in the Black Hills. It's got a Sasquatch on it, and he's wearing the little bunny outfit and everything from the movie The Christmas Story. Okay, enough of the Christmassy stuff aside. It's a struggle not to be with y'all, but at least we have this sort of means of communication. So for those of you that are usuals at Ebenezer or Zor, grace and peace to you from God the Father and our Lord Jesus Christ, and welcome to my little office. And for those of you that are usually joining us online, welcome back. We would love to see you in person when the winter kind of assuages the craziness and the snow subsides and everybody can come inside. Let's pray real quick, and then we will jump into the week 2 of Advent series. Lord, thank you for the day and the things and the whole season that we have to celebrate your birth, knowing that 2,000 years ago you did something that changed the entirety of history from the beginning to the end, and that now we are asked to become a part of that. I pray that our Christmas season would truly reflect that purpose and function and joy. I pray that you would give us true deliverance with light overcoming the darkness, that maybe even the twinkling of the Christmas tree lights or the ones on the outside of people's houses would help us be reminded that winter, physically and metaphorically in our own lives, doesn't last forever. That with winter comes Christmas, and with Christmas, the joy of something to come, the joy of the Messiah's birth, and the joy of the life that we get to live in the in-between from when you come again. Lord, we ask that you would speak, that you would take the words from Isaiah that is 2,700 plus years old and bring them to life in our hearing. Let your voice be the one that we hear. Let your spirit be the one that gives us life. In your name, Jesus. Amen. Okay, so we are jumping right in. Last week, if you don't remember, we started the season of Advent with the curse in the book of Genesis. The fall happens, the serpent and the snake, or the serpent and Eve and Adam and the fruit and all of those things. And in the midst of that, we get a curse on the serpent that you will have enmity between you and the woman, and between her offspring and your offspring, that there are people of darkness and evil in the world, and there are people that are truly of light and life, and that is us as Christians. And as we live in that life, it will come, let's say, at a cost. The cost is that there is still the struggle of toil, the struggle of birth, and the things that are dictated to Eve and Adam, that life will not simply be as easy as it was in the garden. And that for the serpent, that he will have his head bruised, and he will bruise the seed of the woman's heel. So we did the play on words last week of bruising, that the location does kind of give us some weight between somebody getting bruised in the head versus on the heel, that the head is more of a fatal blow, and that our translations like to say crush or strike or things like that, but it's the same word. It gives the connotation that there is a back and forth that we have within this life, a back and forth that we live into, that we can see all around us, that bad things still happen and evil is still in the world to a certain degree. And it helps give us the hope within that promise, that within the struggle of the curse, there is a promise that is to come. And so if you can imagine football players on a field, and the little camera guy way off in the corner, and he's got a really long lens, and as he adjusts that lens focus, he can see farther and farther back. And so we look all the way into what I would consider prehistory history to the story of Adam and Eve and the curse in the garden. Now we are kind of pulling that lens back just a little bit so that we can see through the prophets. And the first prophet that we're going to look at is the prophet Isaiah. Prophet Isaiah, in chapter 7, we get this great kind of what Matthew will pick up and use as a prophecy of Jesus, but is one where it's not necessarily the same in Isaiah's day. And maybe what I'll do is I'm going to focus this more as a sermon and not so much a teaching. And so maybe later in the week I'll record something that gives a little more of the ins and outs of the passage and how we can come to the place that we do as Christians based on this text. But from this text in its original context and the things going on, I'm going to, let's see here. Let's pull up Isaiah 7. And we're going to be looking at verse 13-ish. So I'll put it up here on the screen so that y'all can see it. Here we go. Isaiah chapter 7, starting at verse 13. Then Isaiah said, "Hear now, you house of David. Is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and he will be called Emmanuel." Okay, I'm just going to stop there for now, because that is the kind of classic. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and he will be called Emmanuel, God with us. Now, when we look at this, what you should be able to see, I'll put it back up on the screen for a second, is there's a whole lot of these little blurps that kind of pop up that give you the footnote information, and all of these little things, as you look at them, are important and actually change the translation of what's in there. And I will save that for a different time. Here, let's just focus on what's going on here in this moment. When we when we're talking about this, a little history is helpful. And so what we're talking about is Isaiah is 700 and some years before the birth of Christ. And so we are at 2025, almost 2026, and we move back in history to 0, and then a few years before that, and we get Jesus' birth, and then 700 and some years back, we get Isaiah. And so here we're talking about 735 to 732. We can actually be very precise in this. Isaiah speaks these words. So 735 to 732 BC, Isaiah speaks these words. And what's going on at the time, maybe, I should have, let me see if I can find us a picture. Yeah, here we go. Let's pull it into view here. If I can, maybe. I'll see if I can stretch it out so y'all can see it better. Bear with me. This is what happens when you don't have someone in the sound booth zooming in and making things happen on the screen, and you're doing it all at your own. So here, maybe I'll just zoom back out so that you can see it all. Okay, so when we look at this picture, of course, you have to remember that we are now past the time of one kingdom. It is no longer David and Solomon's unified kingdom. It is fractured. You have the 10 tribes in the north and the 2 tribes in the south. You have the northern area that is usually referred to as Israel. Sometimes it is referred to as Ephraim. We will see that in the passage later today, with its capital in Samaria. And then the tribes in the south, down here, you see Judah. Judah is where the tribes that last the longest live. This is still with Jerusalem and Bethlehem and all this whole area going on. And to the north of that, and maybe I'll just say to the south, you still have Philistia, where the Philistines are, and Edom and Moab. We talked about that during the story of Ruth. And to the north, you have Phoenicia and all of those. That is a whole sailing area of the Phoenicians. And then you have this area that will be referred to as Aram. We'll talk about this in a minute when we kind of go through the full first part of chapter 7. But Aram is also what we would call like modern-day Syria. And then Damascus is, of course, its kind of home capital area. When you go to the north and you follow, I don't have it on the picture, when you follow it to the north and around the Fertile Crescent, this is where you get the area of Assyria. Not Syria like we talk of today, but Assyria, the great empire. And so within this context, you have Assyria to the far north that is later going to be taken over by the Babylonians, and the Babylonians will be later taken over by the Medes, the Persians. But at this point, Assyria is the superpower in the area. Egypt is, of course, to the south, but Assyria is the one that everybody's scared of. And you can go in the museums in the UK, and they have the big stone tablets of all of their accounting. Assyria was seriously scary, like the worst of the worst people. And between kind of this whole area from the picture of Aram and Israel, Ephraim, and Judah to the south, we have all of these different kings and people at play. And Israel has a king named Pekah, and Assyria has a king named Tiglath-Pileser III. Yeah, they get these crazy names. And Aram, Syria, in the middle there has a king named Rezin. We're going to come up with a couple of these people. And down in Judah in the south is King Ahaz. So as we look at this, the situation is Israel in the north and Syria, or Aram, just more north of that. They have made an alliance. They are a coalition that are trying to stave off, trying to fight off the Assyrians from coming down into the area. Now, these two kings, Rezin and Pekah, that are to the north, are putting pressure, as you saw from the picture, the arrows kind of pointing down there, putting pressure on Judah. They are putting pressure on King Ahaz to join them in their coalition. So Here is kind of the struggle as you have Israel that used to be one nation is now fractured through civil war and different kings. They are putting pressure on their relatives to the south, saying, hey, join us. And they have joined with Aram to the north, and they're basically laying siege or bringing their armies to Judah to say, hey, you have to help us keep the Assyrians away. So when we look at this, I think it's helpful to kind of get some of these players and people in mind so that when we read, let me go back to chapter 7 of Isaiah. So let's look back at chapter 7 of Isaiah. We'll put it up over here. Chapter 7 begins, when Ahaz, son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, was king of Judah. Now here, remember, Judah, that's the group to the south. King Rezin of Aram, that's the one all the way to the north, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem, but they could not overpower it. This is kind of a blanket, give you the gist of the words that are going to come next. They're going to tell us how this plays out. Isaiah is telling us that Ahaz is in the south, and Rezin and Pekah, Israel and Aram are coming in from the north. They are trying to overtake Jerusalem and the southern kingdom to get a little more political clout and influence. Verse 2. Now the house of David was told, Aram is allied itself with Ephraim. Ephraim, remember, is the tribes in the north, what we know of as Israel. So the hearts of Ahaz and his people were shaking like trees of the forest are shaken by the wind. Everybody, is what Isaiah is telling you is everybody is scared because of these two kingdoms that are coming down from the north. Remember, Judah is not huge. It's just two tribes, and all of the other people from the north are coming down. Isaiah then speaks to Ahaz. Then the Lord said to Isaiah, go out, you and your son, Shear-Jashub. Oh, this is what happens when you record a sermon, is somebody knocking at my door. Pause just a moment. Okay, I am back. It was the two little neighbor kids that wanted to play with Cora next door. So they were telling me about making snow cones. I had a bottle of Gatorade. Anyway, the neighbors are gone, and we are back at Isaiah. So here we find the word of the Lord comes to Isaiah, and he says, go out, you and your son, Shear-Jashub. And then you click on the little footnote, means a remnant will return. One of the interesting things that I won't get into right now is Isaiah names his children specific things that will or should. He uses them as living illustrations, so to speak, naming them things. So here, you go out with your son, a remnant will return, and meet Ahaz at the end of the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to the Launderer's field. Okay, go out with your son and meet the king at the end of the aqueduct of the upper pool where the people do laundry. Now, when we look at this historically, here is the moment that you go, what's going on? Ahaz is going out to check the water source before the two kingdoms from the north, Israel and Aram, come down and lay siege to Jerusalem. He is going out to fortify the water, see what they have. And say to Ahaz, be careful. Keep calm and do not be afraid. Do not lose heart because of these two smoldering stumps of firewood. Because of the fierce anger of Rezin and Aram, the son of Remaliah. Aram, Ephraim, and Remaliah's son have plotted your ruin, saying, let us invade Judah, let us tear it apart and divide it amongst ourselves, and make the son of Tabeel king over it. Yet this is what the sovereign Lord says. Okay, pause here just in this section. What we find is Isaiah says to King Ahaz, hey, they are coming and you are scared, but do not be afraid. Be careful, keep calm, don't lose heart. because these are smoldering stumps. If you have ever had a bonfire or gone camping, this is the stump that is not throwing off flames. It is just kind of smoldering there, and if you leave it alone, it'll go away. Now, in this historical context, maybe not go away in the sense of they're not going to attack Judah, but they do not have the power and the sway that you think they do. He says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. So here we get into verse 7 and get what the Lord's words are through Isaiah. It will not take place. It will not happen. For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is only Rezin. As in, the area Aram, the capital Damascus, is only the king. He is nothing. Within 65 years, Ephraim will be also shattered to be a people. So he's saying, within the next 65 years, there won't be an Aram. There won't be an Israel to come and attack you. For the head of Ephraim, remember Israel, is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is only Ramallah's son. This is one of those kind of throwing the things of, even his name, Pekah, isn't something worthy to be said. He is the son of Remaliah. I think I've been pronouncing that wrong. If you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. Do not be afraid, stand firm. These are the words that we hear that are spoken through Joshua to the people as they go in to take the land. Here again, Isaiah speaks the Lord's words and he says, hey, don't be afraid of these two kingdoms. Stand firm in your faith. You can make it through. Verse 10, and again the Lord spoke to Ahaz, ask the Lord your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths. Here, interesting historical note, deepest depths actually has the word Sheol in it, meaning from the grave, the place of the dead, or even in the highest heights, from the heavens above to the earth below your feet, ask for a sign. But Ahaz said, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test. This sounds pretty good. Then we get into the section that we read earlier. Then Isaiah said, hear now, you house of David, as in not just you, but everybody with you. Is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore, so he says, give us a sign, ask for one. The Lord will give you a sign, Ahaz, to prove that your faith can stand firm. And he goes, oh, no. He is far too pious. Historically, what we know is, let me finish and I'll tell you historically what we know. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. Now, this is not how it is actually in the Hebrew text. The word virgin can also mean a young maiden, and the phrase will conceive actually says has conceived, and there's some interesting details in there that I'll save for another time. He will be called Emmanuel. He will be eating curds and honey when he knows enough to reject wrong and choose right. As in, even when he's little, he will know the difference between good and evil. Remember all the way back to the garden that there are children of evil and children of good. This child will know what is right before he eats curds and honey. And before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. Before he even knows of it, he will be choosing those things before he actually has the knowledge of choosing these things. The land you fear, Israel to the north, Aram to the north of them, this coalition, they will be laid waste. The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on the house of your father a time unlike since Ephraim broke away from Judah. He will bring the king of Assyria. So here what we find is, we come on back, here what we find is he's telling Ahaz, ask for a sign. And Ahaz is like, no, 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 I would not tempt the Lord. I would not be so pompous to ask for a sign from the Lord. And Isaiah says, no, from the grave below to the stars above, ask, and the Lord will show you. And he's like, no, 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 no. And then we get the line, a virgin will conceive, she'll give birth, that here we find very practical, tangible things within their midst. You will have a sign, and before he's old enough to know right from wrong, these areas will be laid waste. Assyria is coming. So, here, let me pull back and give you the pastoral sermon approach. There are a couple of options here. We place ourselves in the shoes of Ahaz, the one that receives the word from the Lord through the prophet Isaiah. One thing that he could do is hold out all on his own willpower. Number one, go it alone. That even though Israel and Syria, Aram are knocking at the door and he's literally checking the water, he can choose to just fight them all on his own. He could go it alone. Like, it's kind of one of those where, like, if you just avoid it, it won't be an issue. That doesn't seem to be what Isaiah is hinting at here. This is kind of like, let's give it a little Christmas spin for an illustration. This is kind of that moment when little Kevin McAllister is deciding, oh no, Marv and Harry, they're coming. They're coming, and this is my home, and I have to defend it. Like, he's going to do it all by himself. And he makes all of his different things. But is that the best choice? No. That's option one. Ahaz can just say, okay, I'm just going to fight them all by myself. Option two that he could do is he could join the coalition of Israel and Syria, Aram, against the big, bad, scary Assyrians. This is one of those where he could feel and succumb to the pressure that they are bringing. He's already out checking the water to see how long they're going to last, what the fortifications look like. He could just give in. He could decide to do something that he doesn't want to do. He could be forced into action, and that action could be joining with these two kings to the north to fight off the Assyrians in this coalition. Here's your Christmas illustration. This is John McClane. Yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. This is John McClane pulling up into Nakatomi Plaza building, and he gets in there, and he is forced into the situation where it's him versus Hans, him versus all of these bank robbers and attackers and all of this stuff. He didn't have a choice in that situation. He just had to go with the flow. Here, Ahaz could just go with it. We've all been there where there's something that we really don't want to do and we're forced into it. This is maybe you don't want to go to that Christmas party where you got to wear the funny sweater or bring a white elephant gift. You're forced into it out of just familial obligation or because it's a work party or whatever. Like one of those deals where we've all been in those situations where there just doesn't seem like any other option. Ahaz is in that spot. He could, number one, choose to just go it alone. He could, number two, choose to fight with the people that he doesn't want to fight with because he's forced to. Or, number three, and this is what he actually does. What we know from historical accounts is, and through the book of Isaiah, what we know is what Ahaz chooses to do is option three. A full end around. He bypasses going it alone. He doesn't think that he can survive because that's the struggle that Isaiah puts to him. Hey, I know you're scared, but you can make it with faith. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I have enough faith. And he doesn't choose option two of going to the bad guys that are knocking at his door to his family members in Israel, to the people of Aram, and saying, yes, I'll join your coalition. He does number 3, and he skips past them and goes directly to the king of Assyria, Tiglath-Pileser III, and he's like, hey, do you maybe want to join a coalition? I will be on your side against these two to the north. This is short-term gain, long-term loss. Short-term gain, long-term loss. He fixes the problem in the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't turn out very well. This is earlier this week. My girls had their car, and my daughter was like, Dad, the check engine light or the tire pressure light is on. Can you check it out? And of course I check it, and it looks like there's some low tires. And so I fill the tires up, check them, everything's good. And then they come back again this weekend, and they're like, the light came on again. Now, here's what I could do. Here is short-term gain, long-term loss, is I could just keep putting air in the tires. That's what I chose to do again on Saturday because they needed the car. I could do the short-term thing that puts air in the tires knowing that it's going to leak out and eventually I'm going to have the exact same problem again. We do this in our lives all the time. What needs to be done is the wheel needs to come off, the bead needs to be broken, and there's little tiny calcification deposits from the aluminum and the alloy, and they need to be scraped off with a wire brush and put the tire back on. It is the hard work of doing it, especially when you don't have a machine to take the tire off. That's not what I chose to do. Not yet, anyway. But that's how we live our lives. We tend to choose whatever fixes it the shortest term, the quickest way. Here's your... A good illustration of this for the Christmas time is A Christmas Carol. Ebenezer Scrooge, bah humbug, I'm going to hoard all my money and I live alone and I don't want anybody around me. But he wasn't always that way. As the story progresses, we find out that he lost his fiancée, that he had a horrible childhood, that he had all of these things go wrong, and so little by little, he puts up the walls and he shuts everybody out and he hoards on the inside, not just financially, but emotionally, everything that he has, that this is option 3. If option 1 is go it alone like Kevin McAllister, and option 2 is you're forced into a fight that you don't want to be in like John McClane and Hans, option 3 is we can be like Ebenezer and shut everything out and get the short-term gain and the long-term loss. This is exactly what Ahaz does. He chooses to go to the king of Assyria and go, hey, I will be the technical term here is vassal. I will pay you money to not attack me. Feel free to attack everybody to the north of me, but leave me alone. In the end, Assyria doesn't really like this plan. They say yes, but then they decide, we can actually do whatever we want. So short-term gain is Assyria comes and takes away the northern kingdoms. They come down ferociously, viciously, and take all sorts of people away, replace them with their own. This is why we get the history of the Samaritan and the woman at the well, and whether Samaritans are actually Israelites or not Israelites, because Assyria brings in people to swap out so that it's kind of decentralized and destabilized so that they can't have one continual government. It is a puppet government that then has all of these different people that don't share kind of a what we would think of as like a patriotism for the area. That's the 3 options. Go it alone, say yes to the kings to the north in the coalition that are knocking at his door, or number 3, do an end around and form a coalition with the big bad Assyrian Empire is what he does. There was also another option. There was another choice that he could have picked. There was something else that he could have done. Listen to Isaiah. He could have listened to Isaiah. He could have said, even though the fight is coming, the Lord is with me. He could have listened to the sign and actually lived out faith. He could have lived that struggle, that while it will take years for it to develop, and there may be continual battles along the way, Judah, you will stand. Ahaz, you won't fall. Don't give way to your fear and the trepidation and all of the things that are so easily knocking at your door. And that's not what Ahaz does. That's not what he chooses. But here's the thing. He chooses what puts the Band-Aid over the gaping hole, the big wound, the massive hole, which is Assyria. He just puts a Band-Aid on it. I will pay you money to attack the people that are attacking me and leave me alone. Now, this is the second week in Christmas, and normally there would be an Advent candle lighting, and this is typically the week of peace. That if week 1 is the week of hope, week 2 is the week of peace, and we light the peace candle, and we think that, oh, the Lord brings peace. And here in this situation, Isaiah is saying, you will have peace, but not right away. Not immediately. It will take time. And what we find, even in the midst of prophecy, is there is no peace without some conflict. There is no peace just blanket given, that there is struggle. Remember last week to the bruising and the curse and the promise within the curse. Here we find that coming full circle, that Judah, Ahaz, all of the house of David are in the struggle against not only their family members, but the people to the north of them, and the people to the north of them, and all of these different kingdoms come knocking. Let me just kind of put it this way. At Christmas time, it is time to realize that everything isn't just perfect. Everything isn't a white picket fence out front and the beautiful Christmas lights and a fresh blanket of snow and everybody gets along and all of the family dynamics are smooth and easy. We want those things, but they're not that way. They just are not. But one, we don't have to go it alone. We don't have to choose option 1. We don't have to choose option 2 of being forced into a false sense of peace. And we also don't have to choose option 3 of trading our peace of trading the peace of tomorrow for a little bit of false comfort today. What we can do is choose the hard work of faith, the thing that Isaiah presents to us of choosing to stay steadfast, to choose the one that brought us to this moment. And here, I love Christmas time because this is so true. Whether it's Kevin McAllister and the Wet Bandits, conflict. John McClane and Hans, conflict. Buddy the Elf and his own self-actualization, realization of who he is, conflict. Clark, you serious Clark, and his own utopian version of Christmas that most of us fall into, conflict. Maybe even a little more of a frozen pole and a soft, moist, wet tongue. Conflict. Maybe it's an eyeball versus a BB that ricochets. Maybe it is the bah humbug of Ebenezer against the beautiful Christmas spirit that is there the whole time that he's been shutting out. Maybe it is the big green loneliness on the mountain versus the sound of the Who's down in Whoville. Let this year, let this Christmas, let the peace of Christmas truly come from the promise of God with us. A promise that may take everything inside of you, and there may be bruises along the way, but the one that looks forward, the one that is hopeful, the one that embraces peace despite the struggle and conflict around us. The one that looks to all of the smoldering stumps in our lives and says, yeah, but the Lord will get me through. Now, this isn't just like some sort of like little kid optimism. This is faith. Faith that a little child laid in a manger was the one that truly changed everything. Next week, we will look at that child a little more in depth. that he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, Mighty God, that the end of his government will have, you will not see the end of his government. The way that he rules and reigns will be something amazing, that Isaiah continues the prophecies of the one to come that will be the Messiah. This Christmas, don't choose alone. Don't choose to succumb to the pressure around you of those that are pushing on you. Don't choose to let the Band-Aid be your answer, the short-term fix for a long-term problem. Don't trade peace of today for long-lasting peace in the future. Choose faith. Faith that may come with some bruises and a little struggle and conflict along the way, but faith that truly, truly embraces the power and joy and peace of Christmas. Amen, y'all. Until next week, we will look a little further into the book of Isaiah at Isaiah 9. Hopefully, no snow, and I'll see you on Sunday.